everyone and welcome to my channel. I haven't been on this channel for such a long time, so this is a new video. I can't remember the last time I actually uploaded. It was most probably going to be a singing video because I do a lot of singing videos on here, but I thought I'd do a little bit of a change today. So I am currently learning how to drive, so I'm doing my lessons, and this is going to be helpful for anybody who is going to be taking their lessons or is already in the process of taking lessons and will soon to be taking their test. So I know that eventually I'm going to be taking a test. Currently I'm still doing lessons, but obviously you're going to go and progress on to taking a test at some point. So I have got 15 driving test tips going from Google to help you to pass your test. Obviously this isn't a guarantee because nobody can be guaranteed on that, but it is very much help having these tips. So personally, I like to be prepared, which you should always be prepared at any test, but you know, every test is slightly different. Obviously this is a practical test, so it's not the same as what you would have done at school or college when you sat in a classroom and you did a test on paper, but you still see things in the same sort of light. So first question, or should I say first answer, is to be on time. Now I always clarify it to the fact of what it will be like in school. So you don't want to be late to an exam in school because you're going to walk into an exam and everybody's going to be there and you're going to be late, so everybody else has already started their test, everybody's concentrating, you walk in and then you make everybody look up. Now that's the most embarrassing thing ever. So you don't want that to happen. Now yes, it isn't the same in a test with driving because you're on your own with just the instructor or just the instructor and the person who's doing your test. It all depends on if you choose to take your instructor with you, which we will go through in a little while. But you don't want to be late. That's as simple as it, because if you are late, it's not giving just yourself a bad impression, but it's also in reality giving your instructor a bad impression because they would have gone through the questions with you beforehand to make sure you aren't late to your test. Also, not only that, you won't be allowed to sit your test if you are late because you have a set time, mainly because you only have a certain amount of time to do the test. There is going to be somebody after you having the test slot with that same instructor. So if you're late, then it will run over and the person after you will not get their testing in time and they can't be pushed back because it doesn't work like that. They have slots to build each person so it's fair. So if you're late, even by 5 minutes, they can cancel your test. So in reality, you're supposed to be at least 20 minutes early for a test. Now they say don't get there too early, but don't get there too late either, because obviously now with COVID around, a lot of people don't want to be there too early because you can't sit in the waiting room like you used to before your test, which is annoying, but it is how it is. So when you do get there, you normally have to wait in your instructor's car until you take the test. But that could change in various places of the UK. Obviously where I am, that's how it's done. It might be different in different centres. But irregardless, if you're there too early, you're going to be worrying yourself, you're going to be waiting around, and it's not really a good thing to be waiting around for too long because it will make you think bad things about it. But at the same time, you don't want to be there not enough time because it doesn't give you any time to sort of get yourself prepared either. So 20 minutes is a rough estimate on how long you should be waiting around. And normally most people will take a lesson with their instructor before their test, depending on what time of the day you have your test, so that they are prepared and they've done like an observation beforehand to see how their driving is on that day and hope that it's really, really good. So let's get into it. So be on time is one of the main ones. Now, as I say, you are never to be late to a test in any format, so just remember to always be on time. To be there around 20 minutes before, it gives you time to learn your tell me, show me questions with your instructor. Your instructor can give you the information they think they need to give you, the advice they think they need to give you before you go off and do your test. Second one is to have a lesson beforehand. So as I said before, this depends on the instructor you have. They may not be able to fit a lesson in beforehand. So if they can't do it on the day, depending on the time you have your test, obviously if you have a test extremely early, you might not be able to fit a lesson in beforehand because you normally have to have about at least an hour or so before your test. Some people have 2 to 3 hours of learning before their test, depending on what time of the day you are having your test. If it is an early one, you may potentially have to do the test before, the lesson before, the day before, but it's still enough to keep you going. So you are advised to take a lesson beforehand, which you would need to speak to your instructor about, but it does help because it gives you more independence, because it will be a mock test, they won't help you, but they will show you what you need to learn on, just like they always do. Third thing is, make sure you have everything you need. Now, according to Google, there's 47% of young drivers, or any drivers, that go for a test and don't take all their equipment. So a lot of people think you just literally go in with just yourself and the car. Unfortunately, there's more to it than that. Not a lot, but there is. So this is again planning ahead, just like you do when you do a test. You might not be thinking greatly straight the morning of your test or the afternoon of your test, because you know you're a little bit concerned about how it's going to go. You're obviously going to be anxious. You don't show it in the test, but beforehand you might feel a bit anxious. So you may not think to take all these things. So what I would do is, the day before my test or the night before my test, I would put everything I need in front of me somewhere by the door, so you know it doesn't get forgotten, or in my handbag if I know I'm going to be taking that with me, just so I know it won't be forgotten. Because if you do forget it, unfortunately they are cancelled. You can go all that way and they can turn around and say, unfortunately, because you don't have this piece of information, we can't do your test today. So first of all, you would need to take your provisional driving licence. Obviously, everybody that does any sort of test in regards to driving would need to have a provisional licence before they can even do lessons. So everybody will have a provisional licence. You are not allowed to drive an instructor's car without that with you. And in reality, you're not even allowed to drive your own car without without somebody having a provisional licence to prove that they are able to drive the car and that they are old enough. Also, you would need, I'm pretty sure you have to take your theory test certificate, so to prove you've passed your theory test, because you are not allowed to take your practical test until you have passed your theory test. Now, some people do their theory test whilst they're taking their lessons, which is completely and utterly fine. Everybody has different aspects on that one. Personally, I waited till I passed my theory test before I did any practical learning, but some people do it whilst they're in the process of passing their test. But you are not allowed to actually take your physical practical test until you have passed your theory. So that's why personally I thought it was better to just get the theory out of the way first, and then it gives me 2 years. Within that gap, I have 2 years to pass my practical, which I've just got to focus on the practical because I would have passed my theory. Whereas if you're doing both, you have to kind of balance between the two. But yeah, so you will have to take a pass certificate for your theory test as well, to prove that you've passed. Obviously, you are advised to take a bottle of water, which you are allowed to take with you. Now, obviously, it's common sense. You don't really walk into a driving test with a can of Red Bull or a can of energy drink Monster or anything like that, or even a bottle of Coke or stupid stuff like that. Obviously not alcohol. That's the most silly thing to do. You don't do anything like that. It's simple water. You won't get in trouble for taking water. That's what you should take if you're going to take anything. Now, you've got to remember, you are going to be a little bit concerned. You're going to be a little bit anxious at this point. You're meeting someone you've never met before. You know, you're doing a test. You're going to want to take a bottle of water. You're going to be in this for at least 40 minutes. So having this with you will be helpful. Obviously, if you have your mobile phone and things like that, you would have to turn them off, because obviously if the phone goes off in between a test, you will probably fail, because it would be a distraction. So obviously I'd rather just turn my phone off rather than put it on silent, just in case it didn't go on silent and I didn't realise it. If it's off, you know it's off, and that's that. And it can just go in the back of the car and you won't hear anything about your phone until after the test again. So that's the third one. Now the next one is, in reality, you should use your instructor's car. Now, it does depend on the situation and the circumstance, because some people learn in their own car. Now, obviously, this is something you have to speak to your instructor about. If you've been learning in your instructor's car from the start of your lessons, and you halfway through your lessons decide to buy your own car to be insured on, that is completely and utterly fine. But you are advised to keep your instructor's car, mainly because you would have learnt all the controls in that car. You would have learnt the biting point and the clutch control in that particular car. Now, every car is slightly different in some format. You will have buttons in different places. So if you've learnt all your show me, tell me questions in that particular car, so say a Ford, like my instructor's car is a Ford, and then you go and get a Corsa, a Vauxhall, they're completely different cars. They're not even the same make. So you are going to have to learn something completely again, which is just a waste of your time. You're better off sticking to what you know. Once you've passed, then getting to know your own car, obviously, because you will need to at that point. but it just makes more sense to keep to the instructor's car if that's what you start off with. Not only that, but it's also better because your instructor is the one to be making sure that things are correct before your test starts. So like, as it's their car, they have to make sure that it's not broken. There's nothing like that you can't use the car, like there's no reason why you can't use the car basically. They have to make sure the fuel's full up, all them sort of things, whereas if it's your car, it's your responsibility to do that, which means you're putting more pressure on yourself, you know, than the car if it's not yours. Next one is to take your instructor with you for reassurance. Now this one I don't agree with personally, but everybody is different. You have got the option to say, I would not like my instructor in the car with me when I have my test. You can say that. There is no problem whatsoever with that, and to be honest, I don't think many people do take their instructor. You do get people that do, but a lot of people don't. The reason I disagree with this personally is because I have extreme anxiety, and it's bad enough having one person watching me throughout my test, which I don't know, let alone somebody I do know watching me as well. So I would rather just have the one person watching me rather than two. So personally I would say no to having my instructor in the car for the test, but when the test has finished and they take you back to the centre, and obviously this is when they will tell you if you've passed or failed, and whatever one you have got, they will give you information on how to pass next time or what you need to improve on, or even if you've passed, they will still give you things that they think you needed to improve on if you haven't passed as well. I would have them in the car for that, because then if I have failed, I would have them there to reassure what I need to do next time, but I wouldn't have them in the car whilst doing the test itself. But some people feel more confident having more people in the car, especially when it's somebody they've been learning with for a long time. So you are allowed to ask for the instructor to be put in the back seat, but if that is the case, they are not allowed to speak throughout the whole test. They have to stay silent from start to finish. The only person who is allowed to speak to you and that you are allowed to speak to throughout the whole test is the instructor that you are sat next to, which will be the person in the, normally they wear like some sort of lanyard, you know, when they wear like the I can't think of what they're called, I can't think what they're called, but you know, the visor thing where you're like in like the yellow things, jacket things, I can't think what they're called, it's really annoying me, but you know what I mean. So that's that one. Number 6 is to ask your examiner to repeat if needed. Now you can't fail for asking to repeat instructions. You also can't fail if you go off route. So if you're following a sat nav and obviously you've gone the wrong way, now as long as you keep yourself calm and you don't try and swerve back to go to the right route, you will be fine. Just keep going, don't panic, and they will reroute. They will reroute you, or the sat nav will reroute. You don't need to panic. You can't fail for going the wrong way, but you can fail for the way you go about it. So the way you know, don't, if you panic and you get all flustered because you've gone wrong, oh my god, I've gone wrong, what do I do, or should I turn around, you know, things like that. You don't do that, because that will make you fail. That will give you hesitation, and it could become a serious fault, which obviously you can't get one serious fault, only 15 minors or less, otherwise you will fail. So if you need them to repeat, just ask them, just say, would you mind repeating that please, or is it right, you know, and they just say yes or no, whatever. Another one is, don't assume you've failed. If you are thinking negative the whole way through the test, you are not going to expect a positive at the end. You've got to keep your head up, keep your head held high, and you've got more chance of passing if you're thinking positive. Obviously, unfortunately, you don't always pass. That happens. Just remember to keep to yourself for next time. Keep yourself calm. Make sure you listen to what the instructor's told you, or the examiner's told you, and then next time you can take yourself away, you can do some more lessons, and then you can go for another test, and you can keep yourself at it. Don't give up. Another one is choose where you want to take your test. My advice is not to take your test somewhere that you've never done before. Try and keep to the centre that you are used to, because if you go to a completely different area, you're not going to know the routes. You know, you would have learnt a lot of the routes that you will be going to take your test if you are in the same area as your test is going to be. If you go somewhere completely different, it's going to be a brand new start. Basically, you're not going to know what you're looking at whatsoever. So yeah, get to know your test routes, which you should do with your instructor, because most instructors will take you around the sort of test routes that you would expect be taken on in the test. Obviously they always pick one test route out of the lot, but you won't know what one it will be, but you will learn them all normally. And this is one that a lot of people fail for, is not checking their mirrors enough. Now, I've always said you can't fail for checking your mirrors too much, but you can for not checking them enough. So you are better off just checking them, exaggerating it. You don't really need to check them as much as you are, but still do it, because you can't fail for doing it too much. Yet you can fail for not doing it enough, especially your blind spots. Obviously choose when to take your test. Don't take your test at a time where you feel that you're not going to be confident enough. You know, if you're not very good at busy road times, don't pick a time where schools come out of school, where work's like rush hour times. Do like an early morning once schools have just gone in and you know it's not going to be so busy, or do a weekend maybe, you know, if you feel like you need to. Now weekends obviously might be potentially more busy because people are off work and school, but it's up to you when you feel like you're ready to take the test. Learn to drive in different conditions. Now obviously this can be difficult in some cases because not everyone gets the option to, you know, drive while it's been raining or to drive when it's dark, but try and do different hours of the day when you do your tests, because, or your lessons, because you might learn how to drive in the rain, you might learn to drive in the daytime and in the night time as well, you know, things like that. And listen to your instructor, because the whole point in you paying them to teach you is so that they teach you properly. So if you're paying them and they're not teaching you properly, you haven't got the right instructor. But at the same time, if you're not listening to your instructor, you're not going to pass if you're not going to listen to the person that's telling you what you need to do to pass. And always go over your theory as well. Just because you've passed your theory test doesn't mean you're never going to have to retake it. You only have 2 years after you pass your theory test to pass your practical. If you haven't passed within them 2 years, you do realise you have to take your theory test yet again, and you haven't done any learning throughout the whole 2 years for theory test, so you have no idea what you're doing again, and you've got to start from scratch. And last but not least, don't rush to get your licence. Yes, it's annoying if you have to wait so long to pass, you're wanting to tell all your family and friends you've passed first time and all these different things, but it's actually better not to rush, because the more you rush, the less chance you're going to pass quick. So you're better off just taking it at the right pace. So that's all the questions, or I'm getting mixed up, sorry, that's all the top tips, 15 top tips for passing your driving test. Obviously these aren't guaranteed, but they are helpful tips for everybody, and hopefully you will pass first time, guys. So anyone who has their test coming up or is thinking of doing their lessons, I hope this helps you. Please do like and comment, subscribe as well for me, that'll be brilliant. I haven't actually been on this channel for a long time, so I'm going to try and keep it active as much as I can now. Also let me know what you want to see next, guys, because I have no idea what else to put up. I normally do singing videos, but I haven't really got the best voice at the moment because I have a cold, so really that's not ideal at the moment. But please do let me know. Singing videos even, let me know what sort of songs you want to see me sing as well. It'll be brilliant to see what people want to see and what sort of content people want to see on my YouTube channel. So yeah, I hope you have a great afternoon. See you later, guys.